There is a recent comment under one of my videos that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. I guarantee it is going to make you question your entire belief system about health, modern medicine, and the things we are conditioned to consume every single day. A viewer shared this exact story. Every night, my beloved grandma filled her silver cup with water, covered it with a napkin, and the first thing in the morning, she drank it. She never had medicine or pharmaceutical drugs. She lived happily to 104. I miss her. Most people reading that would just smile and dismiss it. They'd say, "Oh, she just had good genetics," or "She probably lived in the countryside with clean air. It was just luck." In an era where the average 60-year-old takes 5 to 7 different pharmaceutical drugs every morning just to keep their bodily functions baseline normal, living to 104 with nothing but a silver cup sounds like a ridiculous fairy tale. But science isn't laughing. Science doesn't believe in magic or fairy tales. Science believes in chemistry. And on a microscopic level, that 104-year-old grandmother's silver cup was not a decorative antique. It was a ruthless bacterial execution chamber, a miniaturized biological reactor operating flawlessly in the dark. This phenomenon has an official name, the oligodynamic effect. It sounds complex, but the mechanism is beautifully and terrifyingly simple. When water sits perfectly still in a pure silver vessel overnight, the surface of that metal does not sleep. The silver silently and continuously releases millions, billions of silver ions, positively charged silver atoms, known as Ag+, directly into the water. You cannot see them. They are invisible. But to a bacterium, these positively charged ions are like a barrage of guided ballistic missiles. Bacteria, fungi, and natural pathogens possess negatively charged cell membranes. Magnetic attraction violently pulls the silver ions straight into this biological armor, and then, game over. The silver ions puncture the protective shell, shred the cell membrane, bypass the defenses, and lock directly onto the bacteria's DNA. The pathogen is instantly paralyzed. It cannot breathe, it cannot metabolize food, and most importantly, it cannot divide and reproduce. It dies on the spot. That 104-year-old grandmother did not need a PhD in quantum chemistry to know this. She was simply continuing a physical truth that protected humanity for thousands of years before the invention of the microscope. The ancients didn't know the words bacteria or positive ions, but they absolutely knew the results. Look at history. Have you ever wondered why European royalty during the Middle Ages were referred to as blue bloods? It wasn't because they were a different species. It was because they ate off silver plates, drank from silver goblets, and used silver utensils generation after generation. Ingesting trace amounts of organic silver over a lifetime sometimes gave their skin a faint bluish tint, a condition called argyria. But here is the trade-off. While the Black Plague and cholera tore across Europe, slaughtering tens of millions of peasants who drank from clay pots and wooden barrels, the nobility survived. Silver was their biological shield. The pioneers who pushed into the American Wild West always dropped a pure silver coin into their large milk jugs or water barrels for journeys that took months under the scorching desert sun. The milk didn't sour, the water didn't rot. The silver did exactly what it was meant to do: annihilate any microscopic life attempting to spoil their precious resources. But if you think this is just an outdated folk remedy, a cute historical anecdote restricted to a single cup or a pioneer's water jug, brace yourself for the second shock. Under that exact same video, another man left a comment. He didn't talk about his grandmother. He talked about his career. Listen to this very carefully. "I was the maintenance manager for a 236-bed nursing facility. For 25 years, we used a copper-silver ionization system on our hot water system. Properly maintained, this 4,000-year-old technology kept our hot water at 110 degrees, completely clean and safe, prohibiting bacteria from growing and causing legionnaires' disease. It worked like a charm." Wait, stop and analyze what he just said. We are no longer talking about a single cup of water resting on a nightstand. We are talking about the primary water infrastructure for 236 hospital beds, housing the most immunocompromised people in society. We are talking about 25 years of relentless, continuous operation. And we are talking about legionnaires' disease. Do you know what legionnaires is? It is not a mild cold. It is a devastating, acute form of pneumonia caused by the Legionella pneumophila bacteria. This microscopic monster does not like cold water. It thrives in warmth. Temperatures between 95 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the exact temperature of central hot water systems in hospitals, luxury hotels, and apartment complexes, are its ultimate breeding ground. But the most terrifying thing about Legionella isn't the temperature it likes, it is its ability to build biological bunkers. When it enters a plumbing system, this bacteria wraps itself in an impenetrable biofilm. Imagine a slimy, hardened suit of armor clinging to the inside of the pipes. And this is where the brutal reality of the modern chemical industry is exposed. What does our municipal water system use to kill bacteria? Chlorine. We dump thousands of tons of chlorine and chloramine into our water supply every single day. But chlorine has two fatal weaknesses. First, it evaporates incredibly fast in hot water. Second, and most importantly, it is almost completely useless against a biofilm. Pumping chlorine into a pipe lined with Legionella is like shooting a BB gun at a military tank. The bacteria survive happily inside their armored layer, waiting for the moment the showerhead turns on so they can be aerosolized straight into the lungs of the unlucky person standing underneath. So, what weapon did that 236-bed nursing facility use to achieve what massive chemical plants cannot? They used an electrode chamber that shoots copper and silver ions directly into the water stream. It is the perfect tag team, the most synchronized natural assault imaginable. Copper is the vanguard. Copper ions possess the unique ability to tear apart and dissolve the biofilm, utterly destroying the bacteria's defensive bunker. Once the armor is breached, the silver, the apex assassin, moves in. As we established earlier, silver penetrates the core, locks the DNA, and terminates the threat. There is no retreat. There is no biological adaptation. If you overuse antibiotics, you create superbugs. But you cannot create a silver-resistant superbug. A bacterium evolving to resist silver makes about as much sense as a human evolving to resist being thrown into an active volcano. The laws of physics simply do not allow it. This copper-silver ionization system is not some whispered underground secret. The United States Environmental Protection Agency acknowledges it. The top hospitals in the world quietly install it to protect their intensive care units. The World Health Organization knows exactly how powerful it is, which brings us to the multi-billion-dollar question beating against the inside of your skull right now. If silver and copper are so powerful, so safe, and so effective that they can keep an entire nursing facility free of outbreaks for a quarter of a century with minimal maintenance, why isn't this in every home? Why does the water from your kitchen sink still reek of chlorine? Why are you still forced to buy plastic water pitchers and replace the filters at exorbitant prices every few months? The answer comes down to three words. Three words that define the entire 21st century economy: the subscription model, or, to put it more bluntly, recurring revenue. Look at how chlorine works. Chlorine evaporates. Chlorine depletes. It requires cities to constantly sign massive contracts, buying new shipments every week, every month, pouring millions of your tax dollars directly into the pockets of chemical conglomerates. It is the perfect consumable product. It does not permanently solve the problem. It merely manages the problem at an acceptable level so that you are forced to keep paying. Now, look at those sleek plastic water filters sitting on your counter. Those companies aren't actually selling you a water filter. They are selling you a plastic shell, a Trojan horse designed to trap you into buying activated carbon or reverse osmosis replacement cartridges every 60 to 90 days for the rest of your life. Stop paying, and the filter becomes garbage. That is not a health product. That is a private tax levied on your fear of contaminated water. The global water treatment industry is worth over $35 billion a year. Their profit margins rely entirely on degradation, depletion, and expiration. Imagine you are the CEO of one of these conglomerates, and a rogue engineer walks into the boardroom to pitch a water purification system based on solid silver and copper. A system that perfectly purifies water, kills bacteria at the DNA level, and runs flawlessly for 5, 10, even 25 years with almost zero material degradation. Do you think that CEO is going to applaud? He is going to fire that engineer on the spot. Because you cannot monopolize silver. Silver has been sitting in the Earth's crust since the planet cooled. You cannot patent the 47th element on the periodic table. And most importantly, you cannot force a consumer to pay a monthly subscription fee for a piece of metal that lasts for decades. They don't marginalize copper and silver because it is primitive. They push it into the shadows, label it unscalable, and build massive regulatory walls around it because it works too well. It is too permanent. It is a direct, existential threat to the recurring revenue matrix they have spent decades constructing. In fact, if you take a step back and look at the macro picture, you will see a terrifying parallel between this chemical water industry and the global financial system. They share the exact same DNA. They operate on the exact same principles of illusion and dependency. Look at the fiat financial system. What are paper dollars, the digital digits on your banking app, or the complex derivative contracts on Wall Street? They are illusions printed out of thin air, backed by nothing but debt. They lose their purchasing power, their intrinsic value every single day through inflation. They force you to constantly run on a hamster wheel, constantly trade, and constantly pay fees to banks and asset managers just to keep your head above water. They have engineered a currency with an expiration date. And what is the ultimate enemy of that fiat paper system? Physical silver and gold. You cannot print physical silver by committee. It holds absolute intrinsic value. It is the most electrically conductive, thermally conductive, and highly reflective metal on Earth, and as we've just seen, the most potent antimicrobial agent in existence. It has protected the purchasing power of the working class through depressions, hyperinflation, and the collapse of empires for 5,000 years. When you hold a physical silver coin in your hand, there is no counterparty risk. Nobody can charge you a management fee for holding it. It exists outside the matrix. It is sound, independent money. Now, apply that exact same lens to your health. The chemical water grid and those plastic, expiring filter cartridges are the fiat currency of health. They slowly drain your resources while providing a deteriorating product. Meanwhile, the natural, permanent, purifying power of silver is the sound money of your biological survival. There is a very specific reason why silver is despised by centralized systems and monopolistic corporations. Because owning silver, whether you are using it to protect your family's financial future from the storm of inflation, or using it to protect the water you drink from deadly pathogens, grants you the one thing these systems fear above all else: independence. That grandmother with her 104-year-old silver cup did not read quarterly earnings reports from water conglomerates. She didn't study the molecular structure of biofilms. She simply did what humanity has always done. She trusted the metal that has stood the test of time. She possessed a source of pure, uncontaminated water, and she didn't have to pay a single corporate entity a monthly renewal fee to get it. And that maintenance manager with 25 years of experience, he saved the lives of hundreds of vulnerable patients, not by relying on endless chemical shipments, but by harnessing the most fundamental laws of nature. This knowledge is not dead. It is just buried under a mountain of marketing for the latest plastic gadgets, masked by the heavy smell of chlorine, and shouted down by self-appointed experts who demand you buy their disposable solutions to stay safe. But the truth is always there, as patient and enduring as a vein of silver in the rock, waiting for someone awake enough to dig it up. They want us to believe we need them to survive. They want us to be lifelong subscribers, paying with our wealth and our health. But every single person who wakes up to the real power of these metals, every person who opts out of their game, creates a fracture in that $3-5 billion illusion. So, the final question is yours. Between a system explicitly designed to slowly bleed you dry and a natural law of purification that has survived millennia, where are you going to place your trust? If this message made you view the world around you differently, if it helped shatter an illusion you didn't even know you were living under, hit subscribe. But more importantly, share this video. Do not let these survival truths remain hidden in obscure maintenance logs or forgotten family memories. It is time to wake each other up from this era of chemical dependency. I will see you in the next one.